Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, Martin's grand.
Hold on down there. Really part of that. So Sid is supposed to be the acting person in his house, but we haven't seen him yet. You already got us.
That's a good excuse.
Joe.
That's a good excuse.
Yes, that's what we thought as well.
I'm sorry, Andy.
You talking to the president?
Hello, Holly.
I've been seeing you every day. Yeah.
That's not more stuff.
I know.
What you laugh? I went from an exterior to interior. It's a lot better.
Yes, it is.
Any where they're gonna hire you?
Not sure the city, but closer to the city, but it was more after the right, I want to say. So close to okay, but then we're friends. Oh, let's say. So it's weird. Not really nice kids. Not wherever I was running it.
Oh.
The whole classroom. And partially it's a bit different.
Yeah. I talked to him earlier.
Yeah.
Yes, his brother. President said, yep, we just out the hall talking to him then. Next Thursday. Absolutely.
It's such an important like this unacceptable, right?
You want to run together or you want to?
Are there any other openings?
Pat's going to start the meeting since Sid's not here. Time's a waste.
Okay. Call a meeting to order. Martin Mannix isn't here and Sid Guerin is not here, so we'll take a roll call.
Jessica? Here. Mr. Graven? Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Kelly? Mrs. Guerin? Mr. Mannix? Mr. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Ms. Raganetti?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Approval of the minutes of the April 16th minutes.
Move it.
Second. Gloria. All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Okay. Wendy?
Yes, thank you. And I apologize. I just assumed that I'd get skipped. So when I was told, you're going to be first, I was surprised. So I have a very brief comments. I was at the Chancellor's inauguration, and I'm sure that John will or has told you more about this. What I can report is that the Plattsburgh flag is really heavy compared to all the other flags. This is honest, and especially being short and having a heavy flag, there were some balance issues going on. So I don't know who obtained our flag, but every other campus has nice, light, lofty ones, and ours has some heft. And so if that could be repaired, the next time we inaugurate a chancellor, I think it would be a good thing. Secondly, and I'm sure that Jerry will tell you more about this, or maybe not, I'll put him on the spot. since the beginning of the semester, we've called 2 all-faculty meetings. One was for the Faculty Senate to set out their agenda for the year, trying to focus as we go into this period of transition to get some focused goals for the faculty, which I think is a really good thing to try to herd all the cats together from the outset. The second meeting I missed because I was at the inauguration, but it was to discuss the upcoming bylaws revision. And I honestly haven't watched the recording of that yet, so I don't know what happened. But that was an informational meeting, which is a part of the process of getting our faculty bylaws put through. So it wasn't shattering as far as I know. And that's what's going on in the world of the presiding officer.
Any questions? Gary?
Greetings, my name is Gary Kroll. I'm stepped into the chair of Faculty Senate this semester, which I'm happy to do. First announcement, about 3 weeks ago, I asked Mohammed Gaber for the recipe for his baklava, and so he won't give it up, but he gives you the baklava instead, which really gets me angry because I want it. But that's what you have out there. It has nuts in it. Be careful. Thank Mohammed when you see him, and please take lots as you leave, and send him a nice email. Yes, Professor Gordon talked about these 2 meetings we have. At one of them, I kind of talked about the 3 priorities my exec group has over the course of the next year. One is to oversee some important searches. This year, we'll be searching for a new president. We'll be searching for a new chief diversity officer. And so I want to make sure all faculty are paying close attention, contributing meaningfully, and being a part of the process. Instead of letting the process happen to us, we'll be a constructive part of the process. So that's the first priority, and I've given the Senate exercises on, what do you want in a president? What do you want in governance? A way just to have them all think about what they want in upper leadership. The second priority is to take that investigation and turn it on ourselves as faculty in terms of faculty governance. What is working in faculty governance? What is not working in faculty governance? And we'll do a bunch of exercises over the course of the year to figure out if we want to make some changes and how faculty governance is actually meted out during the course of the in general. And the third thing is to make sure that the lessons that we learned about diversity, race, inclusion, and pluralism from last semester continue. This semester, towards that end, we have a new committee on student life, which is going to look at the report from the Social Justice Task Force over the summer and not criticize it, but rather make recommendations and find ways for faculty and students to come together to implement those types of activities. So we're excited. We want to make sure that mistakes we've made in the past aren't repeated, and find ways of kind of making faculty and management work constructively together in the future. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Any questions? Is that good for people who have moved up?
Nobody else has to leave early.
Okay. Public comment? Nothing? Okay. Presidential speech. Yes, thank you. Presidential search. Mr. Mannix isn't here. Ms. Hanson?
I think Mr. Porter from SUNY is going to.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ann. And first of all, I just want to thank all of you for making the time on your agenda today. I know that you're all very busy people, but this is a very important endeavor. So I'm glad that we had the chance to start having our first dialogue about it. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Joe Porter. I'm the Senior Vice Chancellor for Executive Leadership and Employee Development, which is this sort of a fancy way to say the person who deals with all the people issues at SUNY. And when the Chancellor came and was forming her new administration, she asked me to step into this role, and I told her that I would be very delighted to do it, because for every enterprise that's really successful, it's all about the people in the enterprise. Everything else is literally tables and chairs. So the people that you have involved are the thing that make things successful. Incredibly important in the role of people is the leadership that we have at our campuses. And so I will tell you that I have heard our members of our Board of Trustees say on many occasions that they consider the appointment of high-quality presidents to be one of the most important things that they do, and one of the most meaningful things in terms of the quality of the educational services that we provide to our students. So that's really, really a significant thing. You at your campus have been blessed with very fine and long leadership by John, and we are sorry to see him moving to the next phase of his life and his career, but we honor his exceptional service through, I'm not sure how many chancellors has it been?
6.
6 chancellors.
That's
So-
counting the interims.
So that's quite a few.
But this is the first one where we actually had flag bearers. Maybe we'll have elephants.
So in any event, when we have a president who has served so well for so long, you never really replace that person. There is another person who comes and they bring their own talents and skills. But we are incredibly grateful for the great work that John has done here. My role in this process is, I like to think of it, I'm sort of like the Sherpa. Okay, so you're about to climb a big mountain and you want to get to the top. And it's my job to help you climb the mountain without falling off and killing yourself. So that's what I'm hoping to do along the way, to provide guidance and assistance to you as you undertake this process. I have provided a packet to each of the council members with some documents that provide information about the search process. And I've got some more here in case anyone wants them. Anne will have those. I'll leave them with her and she can share them with you. And I'm not going to go elaborately through the entire process. Maybe I thought I would just touch upon sort of like some of the high points, just to get you thinking about what the journey up the mountain is going to be like as we move forward here. The first and the most important thing is that our president tells us that they are planning to move on, and then we have a conversation with the chancellor, and we talk about the initiation of the search process. That has indeed begun. Usually the next important thing that happens after that is the campus works on an RFP, a request for proposals, to identify a search firm who will assist the College Council as it undertakes its responsibility to conduct the search process. And as I understand it from Anne, you have got that RFP together. Has that been issued yet?
Yes, it's out.
All right.
It's publicized.
Yep.
It's out there. We're waiting.
Perfect. So getting a good search firm on hand to assist you is very critical and important, and that's going to be a significant part of the process. Another really significant thing that happens early on is the identification of a search committee. And the search committee are people from the campus and the community who are going to be the point of the spear in trying to identify the next president. And basically on that search committee, there are 4 members of the College Council. The chair of the College Council is usually the chair of the search committee. There are 6 elected full-time faculty representatives, since the faculty are a very, very important component of the search committee and the important work that it does. There's a student representative. There's a representative from the foundation, the college foundation. There's a professional or support staff representative. There's a chancellor's liaison, that would be me. There's an academic dean. There is usually a sitting campus president or recently retired president who sits on the search committee to provide some additional assistance and guidance, who represents the chancellor. And then you'll have a college staff liaison, who I assume is going to be Anne, who will be helping with the process. So that's kind of the team of people who are going to be going forward as the search committee. And then This is just the very initial sort of orienting the College Council to the process, sharing information with them. After you identify a search firm, we will be setting up the first meeting of the search committee. And at that first meeting of the search committee, the chancellor will charge the committee, so to speak. She will basically give you your direction and instruction to go forward and begin the process of searching for the next president. So that will be important. And then first orders of business for the search committee will be working on a campus profile describing your campus to applicants for the position, as well as a position description describing the qualities that we're looking for together in the next president. So those things will happen early on. And then the search firm will help the search committee with that and with an ad that will be posted to sort of get word out into the larger community and beyond that we are looking for the president. Confidentiality is a very important part of the process, and it's also very important that we seek to get the most diverse pool of candidates possible for this very important position. So I will assist the search committee with that, as will the search firm that the campus is working with. So once the ad is out and word spreads, people will, I'm sure, so my drive up today, I could see the incredible beauty of this part of the state, and this is really a lovely campus and a place that I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in coming to serve as president. So I expect that we will get a good group of applications for that process. The search committee will review all the submissions over a period of time, looking at the criteria that have been laid out for the position, and make some decisions about an initial pool of candidates. We generally have the search committee narrowed down to about a pool of about 12 candidates or so in the first cut. And then the search committee sort of looks at that group, decides that they're pretty much set. Then they set up off-site interviews for that group of a dozen or so people. They will all be interviewed and carefully examined. And as a result of that process that goes on for a couple days, the search committee will narrow the pool ultimately to about 5 candidates. And those are the 5 candidates who would be coming for the campus interviews. So they would be coming here. They would be getting a second round of interviews. The members of the College Council would spend time with them. Folks in your community would spend time with them. They would have a chance to see the campus and have a better understanding about what they're applying for. And sort of at that point, you are recruiting candidates as much as interviewing that group of 5 people. So putting your best foot forward and letting them see all the wonderful things that are happening here, will be important at that point. Then after those campus visits, the search committee will meet again, make some additional decisions about the recommended candidates that they want to move forward to the College Council. The College Council will consider them, and then after a certain amount of deliberation, the College Council will recommend 3 candidates to the Chancellor, unranked, with sort of strengths and weaknesses or pros and cons. Those 3 candidates will come down to system administration to be interviewed by the Chancellor herself, as well as members of her executive leadership team. And then we will confer together. And from those 3 candidates, the Chancellor will decide which one of them she wishes to recommend forward to our Board of Trustees. Our Board of Trustees have a subcommittee on personnel, and that subcommittee on personnel does an interview of the candidate that the Chancellor recommends, evaluates the materials, and considers them on behalf of their colleagues and the full Board of Trustees. And then ultimately, both the Chancellor and the subcommittee of the Board of Trustees make a recommendation in the form of a resolution to the full Board of Trustees, which appoints the president at an open public meeting. So that's sort of the big picture of what the process is. There's obviously a whole lot more detail in between, and there's some time for the College Council members to get familiar with that. you know, it's my job and my colleague, Zuleika Rodriguez, who is back in Albany, listening in, I believe, to provide the College Council and the search committee and your representatives here with whatever assistance you require in order for this to be a good, solid search process. So that's kind of the overview. I've left some information with the College Council members. I'm going to leave a folder with Ann with additional information if other folks would like to see it and understand what the process is. And I guess at this point, unless you have any questions, I'll let you carry on with the business that you have for your College Council meeting today.
Okay, I'd like to introduce, starting with Ann.
Sure. That'd be good.
We met.
Yes.
Yeah, Dan Burke, council member.
Brian Hartman, Vice President for Student Affairs.
Gloria Reganetti, council member.
I'm Dave Hill, Interim Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Denise Smart, Interim Dean, School of Education, Health and Human Services.
Rowena Ortiz Walters, Dean of the School of Business and Economics.
Holly Heller Ross, Dean of Library and Information Technology. Wendy Gordon, I'm presiding officer for faculty and I teach in the history department.
Well, I like that. I was a history major myself. And when I was going to school in the early 70s, they used to say that history is a queen of the humanities.
Absolutely.
So I'm Gary Kroll, Chair of the Senate, also teaching in the history department. We end up in the same places all the time.
Ken Hartshorn, President of the UUP chapter and Chair of the theater department. I'm Andy Buxer, I'm the Dean of Arts and Sciences.
I'm Ken Kennelly, in Communications and Public Affairs.
I'm John Johnson, council member.
Sean Dermody, Assistant Vice President for Administration and Finance.
Sean.
Jess Boy, Student Association President.
John Etling, recovering history professor.
Thank you so much.
Any questions for Joe?
No, it looks like we've got enough time. Would you say that's true?
Yes, I think you're off to a good start. I think this is timely. I think you have enough time. You should be in good shape.
Okay.
Are there other SUNY presidential searches going on at the same time?
There are. At this point, I'm aware of, in addition to this, there are 4 other campuses that are going to be needing to conduct searches over time, not necessarily the exact same time as this, but there are 4 others.
So if I might, I talked to Nancy Zimper briefly on Friday morning at the inauguration. She was the chancellor before our current one, and for 8 years. And she told me that she appointed, in her 8 years, 52 SUNY presidents. I know, there are only 64 schools.
So that's an awful lot. And there's a variety of factors at play there. You know, not the least of which is just simple demographics. That I think that, you know, as the baby boom and beyond are sort of, you know, moving to the next phase of their lives and careers, it is kind of a natural process that's unfolding. So I still think that SUNY is not only the largest public university system in the country, but the best, and that our campus presidencies are exceptional opportunities for high quality professionals to come and really have an impact on what's happening here. Your president and Wendy, you were just down at the inauguration, and I wish that you all could have been there, because there aren't that many opportunities where we get representatives of the full university all together to feel the power of the whole university. And the chancellor literally is laying out a message, you know, to be the national cutting edge for what happens in the quality of higher education in the public sector. And I believe that she's going to be successful in doing that. So, you know, this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for someone to come here, be a part of something really important and meaningful.
Okay, any other questions?
If I may, just what you've said and what I heard at the inauguration has me wondering, Has the chancellor said anything about what she's looking for in campus presidents that's maybe different from what we searched for, what was it, 15 years ago? Does she have any new, fresh vision of what campus presidents are like?
Well, we're very much in the process of talking about that now. She's thinking about that. As you know, she is an electrical engineer and has a scientific and a research background. But I know, because I talk to her every day, that she has an interest in the full spectrum of the work that we do at our campuses. And so I think that as a general proposition, she's looking for people who are going to be strong, articulate leaders. So I think that that for us to be the finest quality institutions in the country, we have to start with the attitude that we are, or we're on our way to getting there. So we want people who, you want to be a part of a mission, and the mission is to make our great institutions even greater than they already are. So we need people who are going to be leaders and are not afraid to push the boundaries a little bit and try some new things. We're going to need to think about ways to expand the people that we serve. Clearly, the demographics changing also. It's difficult with the traditional student age population. We're going to have to find ways to reach the broadest population possible and reach them, with the full range of opportunities that are available at this great campus as well as the other campuses throughout SUNY. I think we're looking for ways to have greater synergies between the SUNY campuses with each other to afford our students the broadest range of educational options. I know she cares a lot about educational excellence as well as access. Access is our mission, as we were created to do that, but we also care very much about academic excellence and trying to get to the next level. So, we're still having conversations about that, but maybe those are some ideas that I've heard expressed.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming up, Joe.
Happy to.
Next, resolution recommending the name of the David N. Mowry Seminar Room. Motion? Dan?
Second?
Second, Dan. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. A resolution for naming the Kyla Relaford Room.
Move it.
Dan?
Second.
Gloria? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Council committee reports. Mrs. Breganetti and Provost Hill.
David.
Oh. Lori and I chatted about this, and we decided that since I had a copy of our annual report from the division, it might be best for me to just do a summary of some of the high points from that. I started work on August 6th and was particularly pleased that the department chairs, our deans, and my associate VPAA, Joanne Gleason-Craig, were able to put together a report in a fairly quick manner. And I commend them for that work. Joanne especially summarized the reports from the deans. Across the division last year, there was a lot of activity to define who we are academically and what we do, including identifying shared values and drafting content for mission statement, which we continue to work on. Over the past year, we've had many good discussions among faculty regarding how we might best attract and educate today's students. The more we have these conversations within and across departments, the better off we are. The results of those conversations are re-energized course offerings in general education and in arts and sciences majors in particular, with, for example, the addition of career development content, diversity and inclusion considerations in their coursework, and development of new minors and majors with emphasis on integration of traditional disciplines, for example, a music and business major. Scholarly activity remained high last year in the division, and that's an essential part of what we do, as it represents collaborations with colleagues and with our students. Library and Information Technology Science and the Queensbury campus continue to do excellent work. Discussions continue with our department faculty, deans, and Adirondack Community College to identify majors we might offer down there that match up well with their associate degree programs. Major topics this year include continuing work on strategic enrollment management. We're hiring a director of institutional effectiveness. An offer is actually being made today, and this hire will complete our staff for the strategic enrollment management efforts. And SEM, strategic enrollment management, is a comprehensive approach to looking at what we do from recruitment starting in the high school level right through to graduation and being an alum of this college. So it's a comprehensive effort, which is a new way to think about the work of the college. We'll continue monitoring student success and progress. This year we're using Cardinal Star. Many faculty have begun to use that to track student progress, student success, and to identify any particular problems students might have that require some outside assistance. We're addressing some issues by having conversations about our understanding of what's meant by social justice, by inclusive classrooms, unconscious bias, and microaggressions as a way of keeping conversations going and developing deeper understandings of those phenomena. And finally, collaboration among faculty leadership, UUP leadership, and administration and the other divisions is in my blood. That's the way I tend to go about doing business. So we're all working together, pulling in the same direction, hopefully to improve campus climate and culture. And it's wonderful to be here, working with, to Joe's point, a terrific group of faculty and students and administrators.
Any questions for Dave? Okay. Business affairs.
Me too?
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, thank you. Members of the College Council, I'm here on behalf of Vice President La Rochelle, who couldn't be here today. There's been a lot of interesting developments in the Administration and Finance Division, not the least of which being the fact that we are a new name and a new focus for our division. We are no longer Business Affairs, we are Administration and Finance. We have really 3 accomplishments that we are very proud of that I wanted to provide you an update on. The first is that we've been engaging as a division to come up and review and develop a strategic plan to guide our efforts for the years to come. That strategic plan was a collaborative process that focused on taking information and feedback from our campus community, as well as working within a group of key stakeholders within the division. And really, the result from that came up with a new strategic mission, a new strategic vision for our division, as well as strategic values. These strategic values are things that we are working to inculcate broadly within our division, and are focused, if I can do a prop here, on the idea of service as a division, of how our role within the greater campus community of providing service that supports the teaching and learning and that occurs on our campus. So much work is moving on that front. We've developed 4 strategic areas of focus. We're looking at what we can do to foster greater cost savings and business process improvements, to put in efficiencies and cost savings to better support our campus community. We're looking at what we can do to support and develop our teams, foster stronger morale. We're looking at what we can do to better communicate with the rest of the campus community about what we are trying to accomplish and how we can support. And finally, we're looking at ways to foster staff development and retention. Each of these areas have working groups within our division that are focused right now on implementing specific objectives for this coming year. So much more to come in that front, but we're very proud of the accomplishments that we've done largely within the last 6 months for this. The second area of focus is our our financial stability plan. That is something that was developed last fall and has been guiding the campus efforts for focusing on overcoming some of the budgetary challenges of the institution. And we've made great efforts and great progress on that in this past year. One of the areas that we've been focusing on is trying to solicit feedback from our campus community to find revenue generation and budget savings ideas. We made a call to the campus community and had over 150 ideas that were submitted. And right now we have 2 working groups that are working again to review these ideas and implement them. And so again, this is something we're very proud of, this financial stability plan as we go into really effectively year 2. The third area of focus is within our capital projects, which I will be discussing a little bit more in length later. Suffice to say again that, significant efforts continue to occur on the capital projects and facilities fronts, from signage on campus to renovations to dorms. So again, all of these are areas of focus. So that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Questions? Thank you. Community. Mr. Johnson or Mr. Canelli?
I had an opportunity to meet with Ken last week, taking over for Keith, and we got an opportunity to get to know each other. He informed me that as part of the President's Action Plan that deals with the goal of improving campus climate through involvement of community in the community organizations and groups throughout Clinton and Plattsburgh area have started, and that the meeting has occurred with United Way and several other agencies within the community. And it appears that a great deal was accomplished. More importantly, I guess, understanding that they'll be meeting again with a lengthy list of tasks that each that attended the meeting will be expected to be working on until the next meeting. So hopefully that will continue. United Way seems to be taking one of the lead roles in this effort, which is probably better than the college taking a lead in this endeavor. So I think perhaps maybe John will talk about it later in his report. I'm not sure, but I noticed it's one of the goals in his annual report. I also learned that there will be a higher education roundtable later this fall, sometime in October. The college will be meeting with Assemblyman Billy Jones and be relating to him those areas that are most important to us, that hopefully make and give us better representation in this regard in Albany. Also, as we move forward towards the end of the year with budgets and things of that nature coming to a head, SUNY is in the process of preparing its priorities for both state and federal initiatives, and we expect to see some of that information outlined again later in October. I think that was basically the issues that we talked about, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to defer to Ken and let him try to answer them for you.
Any questions? No? Okay. You're on the spot again.
All right. So filling in again for Vice President LaRochelle. Happy to provide this update on facilities and capital planning. Again, since the last College Council meeting, there's been significant progress on a number of important capital projects and updates to our facilities, ultimately to improve them for the benefit of our campus community. There are a number of construction projects, but a few that I wanted to just briefly highlight included Macomb Hall. Significant renovation of Macomb Hall occurred. Construction's been completed, in essence, on a complete renovation of Macomb Hall, which includes new building finishes, envelope, renovated kitchens and bathrooms, full coverage sprinkler services, new elevators, and reconfiguration of the ground floor, really for the key here of new space for our educational opportunity program and student support services. And Brian, catch me if I'm wrong, but I think the ribbon cutting ceremony on this is tomorrow at 4 p.m. And it will be in Macomb Hall's main lobby. So again, if you are able and around to, please join us for the ribbon cutting. Other projects include Angel College Center. There is a construction of the Multicultural Unity Center. That is part of the college's Campus Climate Action Plan. And in essence, it seeks to repurpose space in the Angel College Center that was vacated by several offices that when they moved over to Macomb. And in essence, to create a new place for multicultural programs, services, to better serve the campus community. Obviously, Angel College Center is an ideal location for that, being this, a place of high traffic with our students. And that, as right now, we anticipate construction of that will be done by the end of 2018. So much more to follow, but again, I think this is an exciting initiative. Other projects we're working on right now, there is a project involving a complete roof replacement of areas of Sibley Hall that were not constructed when under prior projects. So it's a replacement of the roof, and that we are anticipating that this job will be completed by late October, mid-November in that area. And finally, and the last area I would just highlight is renovations to Clinton Dining Hall, which I think is phase 3, Brian, if I'm correct. So really, I think the final phase to better support our students and provide an improved dining experience for them. So these are, again, just a few. I would just briefly add that we are making it as part of our concerted effort to keep our campus community informed. There is a very detailed website that has all of our updates on construction projects that we are keeping regularly updated. Easiest way to find it is type construction in the search bar. But again, if you ever have questions, we're putting all of the major projects on there and encourage you to take a look and see the projects that are going on. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
I do have one question. What do you know about the stairs by the library that appear to be done and yet are still fenced off? It's like the very end of the podium.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that. Very familiar with that. And I do not have an answer for that right now, but I will find out.
I can provide that update because I just asked myself recently. So unfortunately, through the leading up to that project, the contractor did not order the hand railings. And so everything is done except for installing hand railings. So they are on order, and as soon as they arrive, they will be installed and opened up.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I ran into Jules earlier today, and he reported that looks like we're good to go with air conditioning in Kent Hall. Is that just a rumor? Or?
That is true.
It is true.
It's not a rumor. That is true, and that is so that will lead to Kent Hall becoming something that hopefully College Auxiliary Services will have more success in attracting summer conferences and things of that nature.
That's been as you well know, that's been a major hurdle, is just the heat.
Yes. I just want to call attention to it. It's a really good thing for the campus.
Great. Is Kent Hall still a dormitory? Kent is still a dormitory?
Yes, it is.
And Mason also?
Amazing, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Whiteface is being renovated now, and next May, Kent will come offline. That'll be the next building to be renovated.
So good.
Thank you.
If I could just mention, the roofing in Sibley Hall was originally supposed to take place over the summer. It's taking place during the year, and it's caused a good deal of disruption in the classes there. The faculty have been wonderful about relocating some of the classes to other buildings for shorter or longer periods of time. And I'd also like to really call the council's attention to the work of Joanne Gleason-Krieg in the Provost's office, Ed Miller in the Dean of Arts and Sciences office, and Jessica Lashway in the registrar's office, who have been heroic in just efforts to resolve these questions and these problems one at a time for a lot of different faculty and students.
Could you also explain briefly why it didn't get done in the summer? We were all hoping it would.
I could not explain that. Perhaps someone else could.
I could. Has a lot to do with the contract awarding process and delays with the contract awarding process. I mean, I think we are very cognizant of the fact that we try to get construction projects done when the faculty are not here. And I would add that certainly, I too would commend Joanne and the Provost's office staff, amongst others, for their efforts. And we are certainly seeking to try as much as possible to minimize the disruption, get contractors to come in earlier in the mornings, et cetera. But we've got to repair leaky roofs. So it is, we are very cognizant of the difficulties and challenges it's putting on the academics.
Any other questions? Institutional advancement. Yeah.
It's hard to follow. It's hard to follow facilities because that usually gets everybody away. But back to institutional advancement. In the report, the president's report, on page 4, you'll see under accomplishment 6. So you can read that. So I won't read that for you. Anne has got a couple of handouts that she's passed out today. I like to dedicate multiple dedication ceremonies that we are going to have at homecoming. But Anne, go ahead.
So as far as the dedication ceremonies, I wanted to make sure that the council members had the schedule. There's going to be 3 dedications during homecoming. So we're hoping that council members will be able to attend. The first one is the James Augustus Wilson dedication, which is at 11 on Friday. And Dr. Etling is going to be kicking that program off with a nice kind of historical perspective of who James Augustus Wilson was, because he graduated in 1902 as our first African-American graduate, and he really was a stellar, from all that we could find, which wasn't a ton, because this was a long time ago, but in the archives of the other 2 colleges that he attended and worked at, he ended up as the chair of the English department at Tuskegee University, and really dedicated his life to education. During the commencement address here at Plattsburgh, he was selected to provide the commencement address by his Plattsburgh fellow students. And Natalie Peck found a beautiful article in the Plattsburgh Sentinel, which was a daily paper back then, in 1902, stating that when he mentioned Booker T. Washington's name and spoke of his intention to go work in the South and help to better the prospects for his race, that applause broke out. So it's just it gives you a really nice feeling, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to honor him. We'll also be kicking off a new scholarship program. We raised about $230,000 to endow a scholarship to support Black African-American students who demonstrate leadership qualities. So it's really just a feel-good type of event. And then I wanted to make sure council members are aware that there's a lunch that will be available right after that dedication, with the hope that you'll stay and check out the finance trading lab and also the portrait unveiling for Tim Myhook. That's Friday. And then on Saturday, we have two dedications. David Mowry, we raised about $35,000, still counting, in honor of Dave. And we'll be naming as you all know from the resolution that was just passed, a honor seminar room in his honor. And Kyla J. Relaford room will be named at 1:30. There's been quite a lot gifted in her memory. What many people don't know is that during her tenure as director of EOP, she worked very closely with me and several other people in my office. And I added it up. During her tenure, we raised about $300,000 for EOP programs. So, you know, besides being an amazing individual and an incredible leader on this campus, she was also very committed to raising students. So that's a very special gathering. And then the other handout, just to touch, I just want to draw your attention to 3 of the events that happened in July. The first one, the Raven Tournament. The second one, the Golf Classic, the Cardinal Classic. And a couple lines down, there's an EXP, Expeditionary Studies event. Those are 3 events that raised quite a bit of money and were all organized and supported and sponsored, in some cases by the foundation, but Nancy Church took the lead on organizing the Raven Tournament. She's been doing it for years. Tom Curls has been doing the golf tournament, Cardinal Classic, for years. Larry and Cerise just organized an event to raise money for EXP, which was really successful. So beside that, I did have one, there's a lot here I know, but one of the stories I wanted to share with you, because I think it's pretty touching. On September 21st, one of our alumni in the classroom visits will be Mark Cantwell, class of 80, environmental scientist with the EPA. Just before Joe Burke passed, he made arrangements for a special gift to the college, and in doing so, he shared a story of the day he was basically planning to depart from Plattsburgh as a student, basically quit. And he was sitting over by the College Center in the Point, wearing ripped jeans, leather jacket, smoking a cigarette, looking pretty unhappy. Joe Burke walked by, said, how are you doing? Sat down, had a talk with him, and Mark ended up staying because of that conversation. And it just, you know, that timing thing to learn of Joe's passing at the same time that Mark made this very special gift in his honor was kind of unusual and just felt like it's important.
Cool.
Any other questions about the upcoming events or anything?
Any questions? Student Affairs. Brian Hartman.
Sure. So just want to briefly share that starting this past summer and opening weekend for this fall semester, we approached our orientation and onboarding process of students a little differently. We shrunk our summer orientation program from 2 nights, overnight stays, to 1 night. And then during opening weekend, we welcomed new students only on the Friday of opening weekend, and then returning students throughout the rest of the weekend. And that change, we felt, was successful. We're still evaluating it and assessing it, but imagine that the recommendation, which we'll be making in the not so distant future, will be to keep that same schedule. I, am honored to be working with Dr. Rowena Ortiz-Walter as we co-chair our CBO search. We are actually meeting after this meeting to talk about next steps. Just to share, initially the idea is to time this so that a newly named president would have the opportunity to be making the final selection of this individual. So we are not as rushed in launching the search for a search firm to assist us until the presidential search gets underway. But we will be making some steps forward. If you have any questions about that, let us know. I will, add a bit more to what Sean's shared about renovations. I'll start with Clinton. If you have the opportunity, and I would encourage you to take the opportunity sometime when you're on campus to go eat at Clinton Dining Hall. The experience, just the ambiance is amazing if you haven't been in there, but the quality of food and their approach to how food goes, they're preparing it and so forth has dramatically changed and is a real enhancement to student experience. With Macomb Hall, as Sean said, we have the opportunity to move EOP and SSS to that space. And for many of the professionals in both of those operations, who some have served here for many, many years, it's their first time to actually have an office with walls and a door, and the space is just gorgeous. So if you're not around tomorrow and would like a tour, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to do that, and we could maybe grab a meal at Clinton at the same time. So share that along with the college. Lots has happened in the College Center, not just the renovations that are currently going on, and not to steal Jessica's thunder too much, but the Student Association office moved down to the first floor. The courtyard in between what is now Bergey's and the Sundowner was renovated this summer. Our fraternity and sorority life operation moved up to what was the Student Association. So some of the moves, I think, really will help facilitate some positive changes for our student leaders and some of their experiences. So we're excited about that. Dr. Julia Overton Healy, who was our director of Career Development Center, who really, in the last 4 years, brought that operation dramatically forward in terms of what it provides our students, left us in August, and she is continuing her career at St. John Fisher College. Toby Hay has been named the interim director and will be making decisions in the not so distant future about what next steps there. But Julia really, I mention it because career development certainly has become a real focus for the college, and Julia has left us a much better place than when she found us. I will also jump on a little bit within student affairs. We've made some adjustments with the onboarding of Cardinal Star to help assist in providing additional support to our students. The system, I think, my hope certainly is that we will commit to this long term. It certainly has a lot of potential to provide more sort of wraparound services for our students, but that takes many hands, and it's a collective effort, which is certainly most of what we do within student affairs, is partnering with our colleagues throughout campus to support our students. And I guess the last thing I'll mention is we continue with, again, lots of partners throughout campus on our social justice efforts. We've been partnering with our interim Chief Diversity Officer, Portia Turco, our Chief of Police, Pat Brasco, and her co-chair our bias response team that just got launched. And also within our division, we have a steering team that is continuing this year and focused on a number of initiatives. And that's it.
Any questions for Brian? Nominating committee, Brian or Gavin's not here. Sue?
Sorry.
Gavin's not here. Anything from
No,
nominating?
nothing for nominating awards.
President's report, John.
Okay, can't believe that the last meeting was April 16th. That seems like years ago, given what's happened since then, including EOP. And I will say, and I think Brian will back me up on that, with Kyla's sudden and shocking death last April, we were left with the decision on who to appoint as the interim director of EOP, and we appointed Cassie Christman. She's, I think, doing an incredibly good job in that capacity. Other personnel changes since this college council last met. You've met Dave Hill. If you've been around for a while, you will remember him as the dean of the School of Education, Health, and Human Services, 2004 to 2010. He brought that school back from below mediocrity to poster child for the system, and got it reaccredited. His leadership, although obviously it took the efforts of the entire faculty and teacher education, including Denise. You've heard that we have a new interim Chief Diversity Officer. She is Portia Turco. She is a lecturer in the counseling education program and the coordinator of our mental health clinic in Ward Hall. She was born and raised in South Africa and moved here early in the current century and earned a master's degree from us in mental health counseling. And I'm very grateful to her for agreeing to do this. Also, Kyle retired. My right hand. He's gone. In fact, he stopped in the office on Wednesday. He's on his way to Denver to help his brother provide security at some god-awful beer festival that attracts people from all over the world. Anyway, Keith is retired. Ken has picked up many of Keith's responsibilities. Josie La Rochelle has picked up others, including what is it? New York Works, or what do we call it? Startup New York, yeah. And I'm holding that position open for the time being to help with the budget difficulties, but if my successor finds that it's critical that Keith be replaced with someone like Keith, the money will still be in the line for him or her to do that. Also, over the summer, college brought up a new web page. You've all had a chance to take a look at it. You can tell by looking at it and thinking about what it replaced that the emphasis on this new one is almost, well, not exclusively, but largely directed toward prospective students and their parents. It's an effort to increase our ability to attract students who might not otherwise consider us and to enroll. Several years ago, I can't remember how many, we did a survey of current students and found out that 80% of them said their first contact with this college was online. So that's what we're hoping that this will do. It's made some other things for faculty and staff a bit more difficult to find, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I do want to make sure that I publicly acknowledge the good work of Catherine Kelleher, the Director of Marketing, and her team, which actually got this new webpage up and running on July 1st with very, very few glitches, I think. Or at least if there were glitches, they didn't reach my ears, which is just as well. You've already heard mention of the progress made on the 10 action steps to improve the campus climate. That's a bit harder to find on our new web page. You have to go to President's office and then you can find it on a drop-down menu there. It used to be right on the front page, but it's not there anymore. But take a look at that. And Sean's, what is it? Annika, she's your assistant director of management services. Annika Fulham has been quite good at updating progress on each of those 10 action steps over the course of the summer. So if you go there, you will see what progress has been made. It's especially important for people, faculty, and students who've been away from the campus and think that nothing happens here. between May and late August, when they can look and see that quite a bit did. Brian Hartman chaired that the task force that put together a bias act and hate crime response policy, which they presented, we studied, we made minor changes and then signed off on it. It was approved on July the 16th. That policy also created what Brian mentioned, which is the bias response team, co-chaired by Pat Rasco, the chief of police, and Portia Turco, the chief diversity officer. It also, over the summer, the social justice task force, you were part of that. Jess was here over the summer, she'll probably tell you. Jonathan Slater, who's a professor in journalism and also the director of the, what is it? Institute for Ethics and Public Life, on the second floor of Hawkins Hall. He and Maxine Perry, a woman in Plattsburgh who's been active in social justice efforts during her decades here. She also is one of the prime movers in the annual Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration on and around the King holiday in January. Unfortunately, when hardly any students are here, but nevertheless, they hold it at the Newman Center every year in mid-January. They co-chaired this task force. Their charge was to provide me with a report with recommendations by August the 1st. They met that deadline. They gave me a report. I posted that online and distributed it widely to the campus community. One of the things that it called for is the creation of a permanent social justice advisory council. I asked Jonathan Slater to chair that. He agreed. We've got a list of people who were recommended to serve on this. I sent out letters, invited them to serve last week, and I'm getting responses, and that's up and running now. A word on enrollments, but only a word. We look pretty stable this fall. Up in some categories or some demographic categories, but down in others. But generally, if you just look at the numbers and compare them to last fall, it won't tell you how much good, hard, intelligent work went into this, just to keep us more or less stable where we are. I hope it's not just a data point, but if it's more than a data point, we have arrested that free fall in enrollments that started back in, 2010. There's an interesting article in today's Chronicle on Higher Education online talking about the lingering and sort of drastic effects on public colleges and universities from the financial crisis of 10 years ago. Lehman Brothers collapsed, 10 years ago this month, so there are all these retrospectives. And one of them is the profound effect on public colleges and universities, not just appropriations, but also what students decide they want to major in, enrollment declines, all sorts of things that are the fallout, at least in this article, that are attributed to that awful period. And I remember it well, free fall budgets, legislature coming around and saying, we want 10% of your budget, and we want it by Monday, identify it, tell us what you're not spending. It's awful. Okay, couple of other things. First of all, to say that Ann mentioned Joe Burke earlier. You know that he passed away in early August. How many of you were students? John, were you a student? Was he present? No.
Dr. Angel.
Dr. Angel was. Yeah, Joe was brought here by Dr. Angel from Concordia University in Montreal, which is interesting because he's a native of Louisville, Kentucky. But he was brought here by Dr. Angel to be the provost. And during his time at Concordia, he had put together the pieces of 2 or 3 different universities to form that term. Came down here as provost. When Dr. Angel retired, Joe became president. He was president here, for about 10 years, something like that. And he did 2 things that his successors, including me, certainly have praised him for. 2 things that took courage. One was to do away with the football team. And the other was with the chief of police at the time, Herb Carpenter, declared that never more would school be in session on St. Patrick's Day. The students would be gone, they wouldn't wreck the downtown, which they had been doing up until that point. So he did those two things, and very grateful to him. He also brought Ed Brohill and Beth Brohill here to create what is now probably the most distinctive feature of this campus, which is the Plattsburgh State Museum, and the music, including the museum without walls. And that was Joe's vision, and it worked. Anyway, there's a memorial service, or they're calling a celebration of Joe Burke's life on October 6th. Alas, that's in the middle of a 4-day weekend here. But October 6th at the Minor Institute. For the last 30 years, Joe has been the president, CEO of the Minor Institute Foundation Board. And that's where the memorial service will be here. There's hardly anyone around here now who remembers him. This is an interesting also, this is something that happened in the summer about 6 weeks ago. And this was gratifying to me and to my senior leadership team. Back in February, when we were in the midst of all that racial turmoil that fell out from the Snapchat video picture, a parent of a student filed a complaint accusing the college of racism in maintaining a hostile learning environment for students of color. This was a complaint that was filed with the Office of Civil Rights in the Department of Education, which then conducted an examination of this complaint, a pretty extensive one, and issued a written report, which I received about 6 weeks ago, which concluded that the college responded promptly and appropriately to that provocation. So that was gratifying in retrospect to see that we did respond, and we will respond better the next time something like this happens, and there will be a next time because of the things that we've done since then, like the bias response team and the social justice advisory committee. And that concludes my report. Oh, also to say, Ann mentioned Tim Myhook. You all remember that Tim Myhook is the most recent SUNY Distinguished Professor on this campus. Distinguished Service Professor. He's a professor in the Earth and Environmental Science program and also the director of the Lake Champlain Research Institute. On the Friday afternoon of homecoming, what's the date, Ann? I can't remember.
Friday the 12th.
The 12th, Friday the 12th, in the library, there will be a portrait unveiling. Tim and his wife, whoever else in his family will be here. He's terrific. We're lucky to have him here. And the Lake Champlain Research Institute is one of our jewels, I would say. So if you're around and you would like to, come over to the library and help us celebrate. This is up there with a list of 2 or 3 things of the most important things we do every year, is to recognize these SUNY distinguished professors. We only have a handful. Their portraits are up in the library. If we are primarily a teaching institution, then these are the best of the best. So that concludes my report. Okay. When are you meeting?
There's a meeting or
When am I? When are you leaving? When am I leaving? This is your last. It's not my last council meeting.
Oh, okay.
Last year. Yeah, I'm leaving at the end of June. Adios. 15 years, Pat. You were just a child.
I know. We grew old together.
Yeah, you hadn't even passed your CPA exam.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You were.
I was well beyond that.
By the way, I appreciate you. When I came in as a freshman, I was to play on that football team.
Well, just think of all those concussions.
No. And,
well, that's why you went into banking instead.
After the concussions.
Yeah. I did. One of the first thing I did here as president, I went to an alumni reception. It was actually a dinner in Washington, D.C., and there was this guy there. And he said, I was on the last football team at Plattsburgh State. I said, oh, were you really? Yeah. He said, yeah. He said, we actually won our first game. He said, but then we lost the next 9. And no one came.
Right.
And I said, oh, well, maybe that's why Dr. Burke did.
Mr. Mannix has nothing to report. Student Association, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. So, Brian, you stole my thunder, but the office move, if you've been in the Angel College Center, you probably noticed that the SA office is now located downstairs where the old EOP space was. I would say a lot of students like the new space. It's very open. The only complaint I've heard so far is that they can no longer nap on the couches without anyone seeing them. But we will
That's
make,
serious.
yes, I didn't think it was that serious, but now I'm reconsidering. Maybe we'll get rid of the conference room. It could be lounge area. You never know. So there's that. I was here over the summer for the people that I know. I'm from the Albany area, so it was still close to home. I stayed in the dorm for the summer, so I am happy that Kent Hall will have AC. So hopefully in the future, people who stay for the summer will be able to survive in the nice climate because it was very hot in the dorms, especially coming from apartment life. But over the summer, myself and another vice president, Arnold Barretto, stayed. He's the vice president for the arts. So we stayed. I would say that we made a really great team, and we were putting on at least 1 to 2 events per week for students who were staying here over the break. At the end, we were looking for some feedback, and we were told that it was the best summer group possible that we put together, and that the most events possible have been put on. So that was nice to hear. Orientation, I'll add to what Brian said. I do think orientation went more smoothly than it has in the past. This was my first time being really involved with it besides just going to orientation. But I think it went well and students enjoyed it. And I think even opening weekend went a little bit better than usual. I'm familiar with opening weekend for being part of the Student Association the past couple of years. So this year for opening weekend, we did things like roller skating and laser tag. There are all these things set up in the Angel College Center. I know I said this at the last meeting. I'm going to add it in. Brian Hartman is great at roller skating. He needs it. No. So as you may know, there's we usually have like a performer come for one night of opening weekend. This time there were events going on all throughout the ACC, and it seemed like students really enjoyed that. And it was nice to see students helping each other and meeting each other. And you could tell that people were going outside of their comfort zone to make some new friends. So hopefully in the coming years, we will continue to plan opening weekend this way. Some new things that are coming up. Something new to note is Cardinal Coffee Connection. So CAS really helped us out and make this happen. Basically, if you're a professor, you can go to a venue like Tim Hortons with a student. All you have to do is show your Plattsburgh ID and you can get a free small hot coffee or hot tea. And it's a good opportunity to connect with students and so that you two can get to know each other a bit more. Something else new and popular lately, a concert survey went out a couple weeks ago, a genre survey. So as you may remember from last semester, we're trying to plan a concert at the end of the spring semester. So looking at the end of April. I know if you've been here for a while, you're probably like, what is she thinking? Doesn't she know what happened 10 plus years ago? I do know. But so this survey was sent out. Around 1,400 people participated in the survey to choose a genre. After that survey was complete, we were able to, the executive council for the Student Association was able to pass a ad hoc concert committee. So this consists of 2 co-chairs, so 2 very dedicated students, Joseph Lewis and Shaheem Narte Togli. And the co-advisors for this will be Pat Rasco and Steve Matthews. So a lot of excitement there, and they're starting their planning immediately. So I will keep you all updated with what happens with that. We've also put on 2 involvement fairs already throughout the school year, and we've had a lot of participation with that. We had club training last weekend, and throughout the month we do it a little bit differently now. So instead of just having one full day of it, it's spread out so that students have more than one opportunity if they're not just available on the one Sunday that it's offered. If you've gone to any of the food venues, you probably noticed that you can purchase a reusable bag now. On-campus students are given those reusable bags for free. When they moved in, they received them. I've heard that people really like them, so that's a plus. There's also like reusable cups for sale at Tim Hortons and places like that. And you'll probably also notice if you go somewhere like the Downer, you won't see straws anymore. So, but I'm pretty sure like the franchises will still have straws. let's see, Social Justice Advisory Group. Dr. Etling mentioned this, but I will be involved in that, and I've recommended 3 other students who will hopefully be able to confirm their spots there. And to note, Cardinal Star, I know a few people have brought that up. I've heard great things from students, and I'll be scrolling through my social media, and people post on their Snapchats screenshots of when their teachers give them a compliment. So people are enjoying it, so I'm glad about that. And in November, it'll be election time. So this is my last semester as Student Association President, and it's already flying by. And that's all I have.
So you got rid of the straws?
It wasn't me. Yeah. Some venues do still have the straws.
Okay. Campus governance. This is Mr. Hartman. Hartsdorf.
So the big news on the UUP side is that in July, the state and the UUP came to an agreement on a contract. They spent August touring the campuses, statewide. UUP spent August touring the campuses to go over the contract, and it was ratified about 10 days ago. 98% of the membership who voted, and over half of the membership voted. That was also a high number. The contract is retroactive to 2016, so it includes some retroactive money. It was much looked forward to by the faculty, I can tell you. Our first labor management meeting is Wednesday at 1:30. We have a few things on the agenda. Chapter elections for officers and delegates will be in the spring, so nominations for delegate seats and officers will be sent out probably 1st of January in that time frame. We have not seen any real negative effects of the Janus decision of the Supreme Court, which is interesting. And that's not just UUP, that's pretty much unions, public sector unions nationwide have not seen any rush to the exits of union members. And in fact, most public sector unions haven't reported an actual increase in membership. They lost some revenue, some more than others in terms of losing the fee payers, but the actual membership numbers have actually gone up. So, any questions?
Any questions? No. Thank you. Ms. Facto, CSDA. Old business? New business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you.
I did reach out to Sid just to make sure everything was okay, and it's totally her. She said she apologized profusely. She thought the meeting was on the 9th.
Thanks for stepping in.